Hi, PerspectaWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, September 15th. A lot to talk about this morning. We have Hurricane Sally, which is a very, very slow moving system, only moving this morning at 2 miles per hour, still over the waters of the northern Gulf of Mexico, but already dumping some heavy rainfall on the northern Gulf coastal region. Some areas will get more than a foot of rain, maybe up to 2 feet of rain in some sections across extreme southeastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, Alabama, all the way to the western part of Florida's panhandle. We also have wildfire smoke now in the mid-Atlantic region that has crossed the country all the way from the western U.S. through the northern plains into the mid-Atlantic region, and it's actually dimming the sunshine this morning in much of the mid-Atlantic region. You'll see what looks like a haze. It's really this high-level smoke from the western U.S. wildfires. The sun is dimmed, a very yellowish, orange type of appearance this morning. This is a map from a high-resolution model that shows the path of the smoke here all the way from the western U.S. across the northern plains, and now has penetrated into the mid-Atlantic region, especially north and east of the D.C. metro region. It's certainly noticeable, the dimming of the sun in Philadelphia, New York City, even down in the D.C. metro area. There's some high-level smoke that will act to dim the sunshine today, and it'll be quite a cool day in the mid-Atlantic region, probably the lowest high temperature we've experienced so far this season, with highs generally around the 70-degree mark in much of the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor. Well, let's now get to the tropical scene here. This is the position of all the players on the field as depicted by the National Hurricane Center. 2 hurricanes. Paulette moved over Bermuda yesterday, is well past, and here's the island of Bermuda right here showing up, so it's well past it now, off to the north and east, and continuing to move in that fashion. We have a couple of tropical storms, Teddy and Vicky. Another significant wave here in the far eastern Atlantic that is very likely to also intensify enough to become a tropical depression or perhaps a tropical storm. And here is what is now Hurricane Sally, sustained winds at 85 miles per hour, maximum sustained winds, and a very slow mover, only moving 2 miles per hour. And that is part of the problem here. It is in a weak wind field, especially in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, and its slow movement will allow for some rainfall amounts to just pile up over the next 24 to 48 hours or so, all the way from eastern Louisiana into the panhandle region of Florida. This region right here, 1 to 2 feet of rain when all is said and done from this very, very slow moving Hurricane Sally. Well, here's the way the radar loop looks this morning, and this same area will continue to get pounded for many, many hours here, as again it is a very slow moving. Its center is still over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Now, what's interesting, since it's such a slow mover, it may actually act to inhibit its own intensification because of upwelling. Underneath the center, it is churning the waters, and that usually results in colder water from underneath coming up to the surface, which in turn puts a cap on intensification prospects. So that's good news here. The fact that it is virtually stalled out, even though it's over the warmer waters of the northern Gulf of Mexico, those waters may actually drop a few degrees over the next several hours. So it's probably not going to intensify from this point on. Again, maximum sustained winds about 85 miles per hour. That does not mean it won't be a big problem, though. It'll produce some tremendous rainfall from the panhandle region of Florida all the way across southwestern Alabama, southern Mississippi, to the extreme eastern part of Louisiana. New Orleans is certainly escaping the worst of it, as the worst of the rainfall will be just to the east of New Orleans. But this whole area will be pounded by rainfall for many, many hours to come, as it is such a slow-moving hurricane. Well, here's the latest colorized infrared satellite imagery loop of Hurricane Sally. No real sign of an eye at the moment here, but again, a Category 1 hurricane with maximum sustained winds and very, very slow moving. Pretty symmetrical appearance to it. Again, it may be actually churning the waters enough underneath it to cause some cooling of the sea surface right underneath its inner core, and that will help to inhibit intensification over the next several hours. So we'll hope that that does indeed cause some weakening, or certainly prevents any intensification. The heaviest of the rainfall from the panhandle of Florida all the way into extreme part of eastern part of Louisiana. Ultimately, it makes a slow move through the state of Alabama, Georgia, and ultimately by the end of the week into the Carolinas, and it'll continue to be a slow mover all the way to the Carolinas. So it'll take until at least Friday to even reach the Carolinas because of its very, very slow movement. Well, let's take a look at NOAA's forecast map for the total rainfall over the next 5 days, primarily from Hurricane Sally when you're dealing with the southeastern part of the nation. And look at this here. This particular color is 10 to 15 inches of rain right in this region, right here, and everything in this area is 7+ inches of rain. So this tells us a couple of things. First of all, the heaviest of the rain, again, extending from the western part of the panhandle of Florida all the way to the basically the eastern Louisiana, the southeastern Louisiana border region with Mississippi, and southern part of Alabama gets pounded as well. And this also gives us an idea of the expected track of Hurricane Sally. Indeed, it looks like it'll very slowly move through Alabama, Georgia, to the Carolinas over the next couple of days, not reaching the Carolinas until the end of the week, maybe Friday night time frame. Meanwhile, at that same time, a very strong cold front will be dropping to the south and east across the Great Lakes and towards the Mid-Atlantic coastline, passing off the Mid-Atlantic coastline sometime during the day on Friday, and that will usher in some of the coolest air of the season so far into the Mid-Atlantic region and northeast U.S. for the upcoming weekend. In fact, Saturday looks like it'll feature high temperatures only in the 60s in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, well below normal for this time of the year. The heaviest rainfall, however, from the remnants of Sally look like it'll stay south of the Mid-Atlantic region. It may, however, come rather close and certainly clip the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula and the southeastern part of Virginia. Right in this region right here, there very well could be some decent rainfall from the remnants of Sally at the end of the week, maybe Friday time frame. We'll have to monitor that over the next couple of days. But as far as D.C. to New York City corridor goes, it looks like the heaviest of the rainfall associated with the remnants of Sally will stay just to the south and east. But again, rather close, so we'll continue to monitor that for potential changes over the next couple of days. By the way, anytime a system is moving this slowly, 2 miles per hour right now, it does allow for the possibility of some changes down the road because the upper air pattern has time to change. And it's not completely out of the question that this heavy rainfall area shifts a little bit over the next couple of days. But again, right now, southeast of Virginia, southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula can get in on some of the very heavy rainfall associated with the remnants of Sally at the end of the work week. Well, let's walk through the operational run of the GFS from 6Z last night. Strong cold, high pressure, cold for this time of the year, situated right over the Mid-Atlantic region this morning. We had some of the coolest temperatures so far this season this morning, early this morning, with upper 40s in some of the suburban areas, let's say to the north and west of Philadelphia, to the north and west of New York City. Upper 40s, maybe 48, 49 degrees. Pottstown, for example, Downingtown, north and west of Philly, with this high pressure sitting right on top of the region. Normally we would have totally clear skies, but again, the clouds right now are filled with some upper level smoke from the wildfires out in the west, which will dim the sunshine in much of the Mid-Atlantic region today. Here is Hurricane Sally, again a very, very slow mover. Let's push forward here in time, and it makes landfall probably on Wednesday and then only slowly moves to the north and then to the north and east as it works its way through Alabama into Georgia and ultimately reaches to Carolina as maybe Thursday night, Friday time frame. And again, at this particular time, it looks like the heaviest of the rainfall associated with the remnants will be confined to southeastern Virginia, maybe clipping the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula. We'll continue to monitor that over the next day or so. Right in here is when this strong cold front starts to kind of interact with the remnants of Sally and passes through the Mid-Atlantic region on the day Friday. And this is another very strong Canadian high-pressure system that will drop across the Great Lakes. And by the time we get to Friday night, Saturday morning, it'll be sitting right over that all too familiar place of southeastern Canada with anchoring the coolest air mass of the season so far for the Mid-Atlantic region, for the Northeast U.S. Again, highs on Saturday likely confined to the 60s in D.C., Philadelphia, and New York City. Normal high right now, for example, Philadelphia about 78, 79 degrees, about 80 degrees down in the D.C. metro region. So confined to the 60s for highs on Saturday, certainly well below normal and a much cooler than normal air mass for this time of the year. So a lot going on with wildfire smoke now all the way into the Mid-Atlantic region. Many, many tropical systems on the tropical scene in the Atlantic Basin, including Hurricane Sally, of course, which will dump tremendous amounts of rainfall over the next 24 to 48 hours or so in the northern Gulf coastal region. That's it for now. For PerspectaWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.